this computer. For some reason, okay. Yeah, there's normally a button, and the button went away. So I had to go to the toolbar at the top to get it going. How is your day going?
It's all right. I
Hmm.
am driving in this storm and it looks
Ah,
horrible.
oh, geez, that is no good. It's no good. I hate driving in terrible weather. So, hey, this week we're talking about staying consistent when results lag. And I'm going to open up with my opening thoughts today, and then
Hold
we're going to get
on.
in.
Hold on.
Uh,
How are you today?
I am all right. I appreciate you asking. Yeah, I'm a little tired. Worked all weekend. We were setting up some more studio space. Good morning, Miss Fati.
Morning,
Um,
Fati.
Morning.
all right. So I was going to open up. Yeah, yeah, but I'm doing good. So yeah, let me get into the because I normally try and get these recorded, this recorded
Okay.
before we get started. But these are the opening thoughts today.
Uh-huh.
Some weeks, and this has to do with staying consistent when the results lag, right? Some weeks test you, not because you don't know what to do, but because the results refuse to show up when they're supposed to. You can do everything right. You can present the facts. You can fight for what you know is correct. And still, the answer comes back no. Maybe you're dealing with rejection. Maybe something outside of your control is slowing you down. Maybe you've been pushing for days or weeks and it feels like nothing is moving. That's when most people start questioning the process. They start wondering if the effort is worth it, even if the work even matters. If maybe they should just step back and accept the outcome. But here's the truth you need to remember: the things that matter most in life, the deals, the opportunities, the goals that you're chasing, they almost never move forward without resistance. Results lag, efforts show up first, progress shows up later. And the people who eventually succeed are not the ones who avoid struggle. They're the ones who keep showing up and keep fighting for the right outcome and keep doing the work even when the scoreboard hasn't caught up yet. So, that kind of just ties into thoughts about, hey, results lag in our business, right? And that's what we're talking about, being able to stay consistent when that is happening. Um, so, are either one of you feeling like results are lagging and how we feel like they're usually lagging for you?
Um, I feel as though, well, I'm a very spiritual person. So I feel like whatever I do not receive is not meant for me. I don't think of it as like a personal loss for myself. I just think that everything that is meant for me is meant for me, including business. Like if somebody were to give me a no, which I have had a couple no's and recently in the past, in the end, one of the people that's told me no actually came back and signed with me, and the other person told me no. It's a headache. Like
Mm-hmm.
just absolutely doing the most. And I think that, it was meant for us to not be doing business together because of the fact that, they had a lot going on and a lot of underlying things that they did not disclose until, like, now that we're not doing business together and they're disclosing with me like everything that's happening in their transaction right now. It's chaotic, and they set it up for themselves to be chaotic. It could be a lot smoother transaction, but they set themselves in a position to make things more difficult than it needs to be. So, yeah, going back to that, like, I think that what's meant for me is meant for me. I don't even see things as a loss, to be honest with you. I stay more on the positive and up and up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's just me.
Now, do you just, what about when we talk about with results lagging? What if it's not meant to be? Like, what if do you feel like it's possible to say, well, it's not meant for me, so you give up? When if you had kept working towards a goal, it could have become the outcome that you wanted.
Hmm. I don't dwell too much on one scenario. If that one scenario, like if that one situation didn't work out for me, I'm gonna move on to the next. I'm not gonna dwell on too much of like why. I do
Hmm.
ask for feedback. Like if somebody chooses not to go with me, I will come back around and ask for feedback because maybe it's something that I need to improve on or something
Hmm.
that like they were looking for more of. I'm more than happy to take like criticism and feedback, but honestly, I don't even dwell too much on it. Once I receive the feedback and, I try to tweak whatever I need to tweak, if it's something with me, then so be it. But I don't, maybe that's just me, but I don't dwell too much on like one situation. It's like, if it
Gotcha.
doesn't work, I'm on to the next. Boom.
Hmm. What about you,
Yeah.
Fati?
Well, I guess for me, it's remembering to just trust the process because,
Hmm.
like, when you first start out, like, for me, I'm still within my first year, you know? So for me, trying to find what niche I want to get into or, like, what's for me. Because, like, when you're first starting out, there's just so many things that are thrown at you, and there's just so many infinite possibilities of things that you can do. So my first year, it was me just kind of maneuvering through that space and figuring out what is for me,
Hmm.
but also figuring out what strategic way to position myself. So for me, the lagging part, like I would sometimes, obviously I'm happy for people that are getting all the deals and making these deals and, they're making moves and stuff like that. And I'm happy for them. But I'm just like, for me, I'm like, okay, like, what I need to be moving faster. Like I need to be moving faster. So I have to sit still in those moments and remind myself that like what I'm in the process of finding what works for me. And once I'm able to sculpt that out and further define it, then I can get
Hmm.
hyper focused on it. So I guess the lagging part for me was the finding what I'm going to fine tune so that I can focus in on, but through it all also remembering to trust the process and like everyone has their time, you know.
Hmm.
So I guess I mean, am I answering, was that the question?
Well, I guess the question is how long or what results usually lag for you?
So for, I guess,
And,
the defining what it was that I wanted to do, but now that I've
mhm.
defined it, now it's just like getting everything set up for the momentum, or I guess I don't know.
Hmm. And I think a lot when you talk about focusing on what works for you, I think a lot of people in this industry continue even outside. Like the first couple of years are incredibly hard. First year, of course, is super hard because you're right. There's so much thrown at you that it's like, what do you focus on, right? How do you build your business? But even as you grow, that's I think that's part of the reason why you see so many agents who have had 10 1 year, well, not a lot of agents, right? Not a lot of agents have been in the business for 10 years, but you see, when you talk about the difference between having a 10-year career or 10 1 year careers, right? Because focusing on, like, it's easy to it's like, get focused on the next shiny object, right? Like you're doing something and you get a few results from that, but then you started focusing on the next shiny object. So as you find out what works for you and staying committed to working on that for a long period of time. As I tell a lot of people, commit to something for a year when you're putting it in your plans. Now, adapt that plan when it comes to, like, again, we're talking about results that lag, right? Because that's what happens in this business. So if you're only staying consistent on an idea for 3 to 6 months and the results are lagging, you may not even see the results from doing that plan. That's part of the reason, my whole goal with, the YouTube channel is I was like, my first deal at a year minimum. And then year two is still, 2 to 3 deals that I can attribute to the YouTube um, channel. So being focused on what a realistic timeline for the results for the strategy that you're choosing is incredibly important. Um, so for your businesses, what behaviors predict success?
For me, I received the most success with communication, like making sure that I uphold the promise that I made from the beginning. Like from the initial conversation, like I set standards and I let them know, like, how often I'll be communicating, how, how I'll be conducting business, the time frame I'll be conducting business, like
Hmm.
just setting those standards and upholding those standards through and through. Because I do notice that, like, say, for example, one thing I did struggle with before was I said I would keep up with my client like once, like, maybe twice a week to let them know what was happening. And instead,
Hmm.
I did like only once a week. Or I told them that I'll send them like an email report of whatever XYZ is happening within the transaction. And I wasn't following up on my emails. And I noticed that it ended up backfiring in the end because it was a lot of he said, she said back and forth between us. And it's just like that
Hmm.
email trail will hold us both accountable to make sure that we both understand and know the underlying goals. Like over
Hmm.
communicate. I know over communication sounds very cliche, but it's so necessary to have things in black and white because every transaction has its ebbs and flows and every transaction is different. But one thing I noticed is that nothing's ever smooth. A smooth, easy transaction is always something. So
Yeah.
you have smooth, easy transactions, like just easy breezy, because I have yet to have one. It's always
Occasionally.
something. Okay,
Occasionally. Oh,
well,
yeah, there's
God
going to be
bless
something.
you.
Yeah. Okay.
God
But right
bless
now,
you.
no, I'm dealing with headaches right now. Just headaches. They're all headaches.
Yeah, yeah, I
Uh,
feel that. But with my very first transaction, I definitely learned very quickly. My very first one, have everything by email. Like, do an email trail. Like, after a conversation I have with my client, I immediately do a highlights of conversation so that you and I both understanding. And what my clients would do is go back and say, actually, you tweak this part. Actually, I didn't mean Stockbridge. I meant McDonough. Like, can you take off Stockbridge? Like, I make sure that everything's in email so we have a very clear understanding. And then when they
hmm
say, oh, I didn't say that, and it's like, no, let's refer back to our highlights of conversation that we both talked about. And I told you to review to make sure everything was correct. It's just kind of like I like to have a paper trail to
Yeah.
help. It is my strategy to help with staying focused, understanding the goal, and
hmm
so that I'm able to basically be the best, consult and advisor to my client on navigating through the transaction. That's one thing I learned real quick,
hmm
real
Yeah. And
quick.
I think what you said there, upholding standards is incredibly important to,
Hmm.
that's a big behavior of predicting success. What about for you, Fatih? What do you think? What behaviors predict success?
Well, for me, setting up like goals, right? Whether it's with a person or whether it's for something that I'm putting together and actually completing them. So progression forward is a sign of success for me.
Hmm.
One thing I learned from Maya is that with especially with clients that you're dealing with when it comes to like buyers and stuff like that, one thing I do remember her saying that was pretty helpful tip is have like a number of houses, like set a number of houses or whatnot that you go ahead and take a look at together. And if you end up passing that threshold of that number, then saying, hey, we need to sit down and reevaluate what it is that we need to change about the search and things of that nature. So circling back, if we notice that buyers are getting they're not remembering. I guess it's some people say coming to Jesus meeting. Come to Jesus meeting, but just regrounding and
Uh-huh.
reminding each other of what the actual goals were. And my first client, I got pretty lucky with my first client that I had. She was amazing. You were there at the closing. And it was one of those like at first she was just we were looking everywhere and then afterwards we had to recenter ourselves and remind each other of the goal and
hmm
what we're trying to do. So with clients, recentering and reminding and checking in and reminding them of their own goals. But for me personally, success definitely looks like matching some sort of a projection or progression, growth chart or whatever it is that you want to call it.
So let's actually real quick. Let's dive into that. Like a quick dive into that. At what point did you realize like she was going everywhere, and how did you bring her back to, hey, this is what we were talking about in the beginning?
So because we were 3 months in when we were looking at the houses.
Hmm.
And at first, I didn't want her to feel like I was just shutting down her ideas and like in it for the money or something. So I had her because she was sending me houses, and I had to show her those houses that she was that she was picking because she was so excited about them. And I
Hmm.
had to show her, like, hey, this price point and these pictures look really nice, but we need to go look at these houses in person so that you understand what it is that you're actually getting into, because pictures will lie to you,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
So we were looking at those, and then eventually she came down and she was like, okay, Fati, like, I see what you're talking about. And then there was the second part where she was just stuck on houses. And we were looking at houses, and I was telling her, within that price point, you're not going to find what you're looking for. So eventually, I was just like, okay, we sat down. I think it was like probably after like the fifth or sixth or something like that house. We sat down and we reminded her, and I reminded her. I was like, hey, this is what we had intentionally talked about. We need
Hmm.
to move with intention.
Hmm.
And honestly, for me, it was my first deal. So I was very excited to have my first client, and it was someone that I did not know, and it was someone that I just met.
Hmm. Hmm.
So for me, I had to stand still in my ground and just remind her and be firm with her and be like, hey, we need to remember what the goal is. The goal
Yeah.
is not to find your forever home, but it's to find a stepping stool. At first, she was not okay with townhouses. She was not okay with townhouses because she wanted the big backyard. She wanted all these things that were not within her price range. And I had to
Hmm.
remind her and put out all the cards on the table. So, by putting out all the options and listing the pros and cons of everything, I was
Hmm.
like, with that in mind, remember what your goals are. This is what your goal is. Which way would you want to sway? Because we're not in the business of wasting each other's time. I like you. I think you're really cool. but I can't be driving around with you.
Yeah. Right.
you know? And I didn't necessarily say it like that, but she also understood as well. So, and what was amazing is after that, like, we had that conversation, like an off-market property was presented to me that was exactly what we had discussed and defined within that conversation for what we were looking for, and we closed within 2 weeks.
Hmm. And I think one of the things you pointed out too is being able to tell your clients no when you first. And I do the same thing and it's hard, of course, when that was your first deal. Um, when my clients start sending me things when I first start working with them, if they don't know me, I'm gonna show them the first handful of homes that they send. But then when we get out to those homes, I'm very uh, intentional about being like, look, normally I would have told you this is a bad idea, and here's why: A, B, C, and D. So when you send me homes, I am going to point out like, here's why I think this is a bad call. If you still really want to see it after that, great. I don't want to shut anything down. You make the final decision. But from my experiences, here's why I'm going to tell you this is probably not the best home for us to spend our time going to tour. And like, and again, when you're first getting started with the client, like you want to make sure like you are taking the time and they don't feel like, oh, they're shutting down
Mm-hmm.
everything I'm sending them, right? Like that's not a good feeling for them or for you. So it is sort of a balancing act right at the beginning. So I guess the next question is, and we're going to go through this one and see if there's kind of any quick open forum ideas you want to talk about or thoughts. How will you measure your efforts instead of your outcomes for your business?
How do you measure
Crystal?
your
Fati?
efforts?
Oh, go ahead.
You said, how do you measure your efforts versus your outcome?
Yep. Yeah. Because it's efforts because in this business where efforts or results lag, you have to pay attention more to your efforts and your outcomes. So how will
Um,
you measure that?
probably analyzing to see where I don't need to be spending my time. Like if I'm noticing that I'm not moving as fast as I want to, I need to step back and analyze where am I putting the most effort to where I'm not seeing a return on what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely analyzing the difference between what is working and what is not working as fast as I want it to optimize on time.
Mm-hmm.
And then making adjustments so that I can, progress forward faster.
Okay. And then how do you, I guess, when you talk about what's not working as fast as you want to, how do you feel like you'll figure that out?
If I'm exhausted,
Okay.
if I am spending too
That's
much time
fair.
on something and I am tired, that is not working. So I need to shift gears.
I got it. Okay. Okay. No, I get it. Yeah, because I mean, that makes sense. And there are times in this business you will be exhausted, right? Any business, anything we do in life, we'll find times when we're exhausted. Crystal, anything for you?
Yes, can you repeat the question? Sorry, I
Oh
missed the
yeah, yeah, no
question.
worries. How will you like because efforts results lag in this business? How will you measure your efforts instead of your outcomes?
How would I measure my efforts instead of my outcome?
Hmm.
Um, I would measure my efforts by, I guess that's a good question. How would I measure my efforts versus my outcome?
Well, and it's just something you need to think about. Think about it because again, in this business, this today is all about results lag and being aware of that, and being by being aware of that, that helps us stay focused on the long run in this business. So, so real quick, we just got a couple minutes left. Is there any quick open forum items we want to chat about before we jump off the call? Is anything, any issues or problems you're dealing with?
I think my efforts would be measured by still upholding my standards, going back to
Uh-huh.
that.
Okay.
I think like upholding my standards and, making those promises in the beginning and following through with those promises that I said I was going to do.
Hmm.
I feel as though my effort was definitely shown and exemplified, even though the results might be that they're not qualified or like they're not ready or, ready to move forward. Like I feel as though, yeah, I think that's how I would feel. I think
And
that, yeah.
I would say, in the whole not qualified or not ready to move forward, again, by coming from a place of contribution and believing in the long term, if you keep focusing on them appropriately over time, they will eventually it will be the time, and I've got numerous, one of my friends I worked with for 4 years helping him get his credit, 4 to 5 years to get his credit to the place where he could finally buy a home. And at the closing table, he turned to me, he said, Tony, we're here because of you. Right. So when he first started talking to me, he wasn't ready. His credit wasn't there. But by staying focused on it for the long run, he got there, Um, so and lots of examples like that. So, by focusing on again, maybe not now, right? But okay, what are the steps to get them there and continually assist? Then then they don't all pay off. I've got examples where I spent 4 years working with a friend and his wife chose another realtor. At the same time, after that didn't work out, now they came back to me and I'm selling the mother's home. So it ultimately worked out, because I didn't burn a bridge. Fati, any final questions or thoughts for the day before I close with my closing thoughts?
No, I'm good. Thanks.
Yeah. All right. So, today is about paying attention to, the fact that our results lag, right? And just focus on that. So here's what I want you to think about when this call ends. How do you measure whether you're winning? Because if you're measuring progress only by results, there are going to be weeks you feel like you're losing. You'll stall. Calls don't convert. Opportunities take longer than you expected. But results are lagging indicators. They show up after the work. The real result, the real measure of progress is the behavior. Did you make the calls? Did you follow up? Did you keep pushing forward when the outcome wasn't guaranteed? That's emotional discipline. That's trusting the process. And that's the difference between someone who quits during a hard stretch and someone who builds a career that lasts. So this week, don't measure your success by outcome alone. Measure by the effort. Measure it by consistency. Measure it by the fact that you keep doing the work when it would have been easier to walk away. Because when results lag, the people who stay consistent are the ones who eventually win in the long game. That being said, good morning and good luck this week.
Thank you, Tony. Hope you guys both have a great week. I'll see y'all in the office.
Tony.
Yes.
No, you were supposed to say good morning. This is Tony signing off. Good morning.
Good luck. That's what I said. I said, yeah, it says good morning and good luck. Okay, hey, this is Tony Toich signing off. Good morning and good luck.
There you go.
All right. Talk to y'all soon.
Bye.